Welcome to Villa Kenworthy. Today we're making beets. Welcome to Villa Kenworthy. I'm Dennis and this is my wife Yulia. Today she's going to be helping us with our #1 requested recipe video, and that's going to be over her shredded beets and onion. Ever since I did the pantry video a couple of months ago, everyone's been requesting it, so we've decided to go ahead and purchase some beets and make the video happen.
Hello everyone. As Dennis already mentioned, this recipe is pretty simple, so I'm going to go over the ingredients really quick. We got our beets, of course, that we got from our local grocery store. We usually like to grow ours in our garden over the summer, but it is December now and all of ours have already been canned by now. But for the sake of this recipe, we just went ahead and picked up some fresh ones. And then you're also going to need an onion, some salt and pepper to taste, and some citric acid if you're planning to can this recipe. And we'll go over that in a little bit more detail as we get going. But we will go ahead and start by prepping the beets. So as I've already mentioned, for this recipe, we are going to be using some fresh beets. We will be boiling this, so we'll want to go ahead and start off by removing the stems and the leaves. Now what I would recommend is to not go ahead and throw these away, because you can actually use this for a couple of different things. You can go ahead and clean them up and use those fresh in your salad, or you can go ahead and saute them for a very delicious side dish. So when it comes to cutting these off, you will want to make sure that you leave at least a few inches of stem attached to the beet. That will help to not lose all of the color as you're boiling them. You also will not want to remove any of these tails. You'll just go ahead and leave those on. Again, it just helps with not losing the color or the flavor in the water as they are boiling. Also, you will leave all of the skin on. We'll go ahead and peel those later once they're boiled. So here we go, our beets are ready to go right into the boiling water. It may take about anywhere from half an hour to an hour to cook these. It really depends on the size of beets that you have. Obviously, the bigger they are, the longer it takes. I do want to also mention that you want to make sure that these are thoroughly washed and scrubbed before you do cook them, especially if they just came out of your garden, because they can have a lot of soil and other dirt on them. I do like to use some of these vegetable scrubbers to help me out with that task. So I'm going to go ahead and get this into the water, and I will see you right after.
Next up in the process is to prepare the onion. So I have this onion. This right here is the root end. This is the top end. I'm going to start off by peeling some of the outer husk off, just so that my knife doesn't struggle getting through it. You want a good sharp knife. Take the top end off. Flip it up like that, fingers on either side. I'm not going to cut my fingers, right through. Now I've got two halves. Just move everything out of the way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel the top couple layers off until I get down to good solid onion. Alright, so in order to get the finer diced onion, I'm going to need to take and make a couple slices. So I'm going to take, keeping my fingers up out of the way and on the top, I take and make a slice in almost all the way to the back. And I'll do that a couple of times in here. I don't want to cut all the way through. Then I'm going to take and make slices all the way across this way. Next up is I go back to the front and I just slice them into nice little small diced onion. Take it almost all the way down to the root, but you can stay away from that part. This recipe with 3 beets usually calls for about half of a large yellow onion. I'm going to go ahead and use both of them because I really like the onion, but everything is to taste. So if you don't like onion a whole lot or at all, you could probably do this without the onion. But if you do like onion, go ahead and use a whole one like I did.
Okay, so I just took the beets out of the boiling water. When you work with them, please be very careful. They're very hot. You may want to let them sit for a while to cool off. In order to know if your beets are fully done, you can actually just see if the fork goes through them with no problem. It should slide right in and out, no issues. So that's a good indicator that they are fully cooked. Now, in order to peel these, you can just go ahead and chop off the ends. Notice I'm wearing gloves. It really helps because the beets have a lot of color and sometimes it can actually kind of transfer to your hands, and we want to avoid that. So you chop off the stem, you could go ahead and cut off the little tail that it has, and then the skins should actually come right off. You can just do it right with your hands, no need to use the knife or anything. They should come off easy if your beets are fully cooked. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this all peeled and cleaned up. And then if I were doing a bigger batch, like in the summertime when I have lots of them, I would go ahead and use my food processor to shred these. But for today, just because I have only 3 of them, I'll just go ahead and use the regular shredder. So I just went ahead and cut these in half to make it easier to shred, and I'm just gonna go ahead and use the shredder. Once again, be careful, this can hold some heat for a while, so you wanna make sure you let them cool just enough to be able to handle these. Alright, so here we go. Beets all nice and shredded. We're going to go ahead and work on our onion now, and then we'll come back to these.
So I've got a non-stick skillet. I've got it over medium heat. I'm going to put some olive oil in the pan. You can use any type of oil that you want. I just prefer olive oil. Put maybe 2 tablespoons in there. I'll let that get warmed up until it thins out, and then I'll add the onions. So the trick with the onions is you want to caramelize them. You don't want the heat too high, so I've got it just over medium, and I'm going to cook these down until they start to brown a little bit. If you cook it too high, you're not going to get the same result. So this will add sweetness, and then it'll help with that texture, and then we'll add the beets. So the onions are pretty well caramelized. They started to brown a little bit. This draws out the sweetness, and it's going to add great flavor. I'm going to turn things over to Yulia to finish it up.
Alright, so we're going to go ahead and add the beets. You want to go ahead and mix it all together really well. Give it a good stir. You still want to keep it on medium heat the entire time. Now, since the onions and the beets are pretty much cooked, they don't really need a whole lot of time. I'd probably give it about 10 to 15 minutes to cook together. While they're cooking, you'll want to add your salt and pepper. That is completely to taste. And then if you would like to can this recipe, I would recommend adding a little bit of citric acid. For this amount, I would probably do about 1/4 teaspoon. It will just help with the canning process and ensuring that everything stays nice and fresh. Sometimes, even if I don't plan to can it, I'll still add a little bit of that. I think it just adds a little bit of extra flavor. So you can play around with it, definitely try it a few different ways and just figure out what works best for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep on stirring it over the next 10 to 15 minutes, add my salt and pepper and a little bit of citric acid, and I will see you when it's all done. Alright, here we go. We got our finished product. Definitely a much smaller batch than what we're used to making in the summertime when we have our own bits from the garden. As far as storing this recipe, this will hold up in the fridge for a few days. As I mentioned earlier in the video, you can definitely can this. Make sure to use a pressure canner and check what pressure and how long to can it for based on your altitude and the size of the jars that you choose to use.
Well, thank you for joining us. This is our first viewer recommended video. I hope that you enjoyed. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, share. Let us know what else you're interested in. We'd like to keep doing some more joint effort videos. So thank you very much. We'll see you next time.